Hi, my name is Angelica Moreno. Today we'll be presenting Module 4's assignment over the global closet. For Section 1, I picked out some items of clothing that I have in my closet that I wear on a pretty regular basis. The first item is a pair of jeans from Forever 21. As you can see, the label does state that they're made in China. A lot of Forever 21 items are made in China. This sweater is also from Forever 21. It's from a different label, but it also lists right there that it is made in China. This third item is a sweater from Target. I've had this for many years, and it's listed as being made in Indonesia. And my final item from my everyday closet is a blazer from a company called Naf Naf. They're based out of France. They're not really sold in the US, but I was able to get my hands on when I was abroad recently. And even though none of the other products show where it was developed or where it was designed, this label does say what company imported it, and it says that for a lot of different countries on this label. It says imported by Naftalina, so it says that right there. And then in a more hidden place, it does state that it was made in China. So out of all of my most worn items, every single one of them was manufactured in an Asian country. I think it's really important to note the fact that majority of them are from China, but the fact that there's Indonesia, that was also kind of interesting for me. So for section 2, I went throughout my closet and rated my roommates' closets for some vintage clothes. The first piece of clothing is a wrap skirt that my mom's had since way before I was born. The label's kind of worn, but it says it was made in India. And you can tell it's something that's more traditional. It has kind of like that Indian-inspired pattern. It has some elephants on it. The second piece of clothing is a sweater that was made in Canada. It shows it on the label. It's made in Canada. Third is a dress, a flower dress from a Spanish company. I don't think they're in business anymore. So it does state like all the European sizes. And then it says made in Morocco. And then the final piece of clothing is a dress. The label's kind of worn, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on camera. But it does state that it was made in China very faintly. Down here at the bottom. Kind of says it was made in China. So out of all of those things, I think it's really important to note that even though none of the vintage items were made in the United States, that blue sweater was made in Canada. And since Canada and the United States trade so often, a lot of their trade policies are similar. But overwhelmingly, they came from a bunch of different countries. So even though they are vintage items, that shows that globalization was still alive and very much well, because all of these clothing items must have come from different countries, either like the dress from the Spanish company, the company was based out of Spain, or different countries such as American companies who just outsourced all the production to third world countries. And then I decided to start looking up the company Tom's. Tom's is a company known for its shoes. Their motto is 1 for 1. I have linked my PowerPoint along with this video. It should be under my discussion. So their company overview is basically they very much pride themselves in being able to provide a responsible and sustainable business model. Their core values are listed, and it's also, they're very emphasized. And it says, quote, at Tom's, we believe we can improve people's lives through business. Founded in 2006, we understand the imperative for a company to operate responsibly and know that you want to buy from a company that works hard to integrate sustainable and responsible practices into all they do. And it kind of goes on, and then there's other examples that they do disclose where their products are made. They have factories in China, Ethiopia, and Argentina. The founder, the reason why he founded this company is because he saw a need for children in different countries to have shoes. In some countries, they weren't able to attend school barefoot. So he saw that as an opportunity to kind of help that community. As a result, part of the initiative is to create the factories in those countries so that it also provides jobs for the people working there, which is supposed to help with the poverty issue. That is one of the things that many critics against Tom have listed, is that they don't do enough to fight the source of the problem. They just kind of taper it in. So the whole premise is that you buy a pair of shoes. So for example, here in America, we can buy a pair of shoes made in Ethiopia, and then a pair of shoes will go to a child or a person in need in Ethiopia. So I think that is a very interesting business model, and they pride themselves on saying that their resources, all the way from their raw materials, are being traced, and they're supposed to be adhering to a very high standard of kind of business and where they get their products and how they treat their staff. Um, and then some of the critics did also cite that the public information that is provided isn't concrete enough. So they do state all these wonderful claims that they have various companies and different institutions go and monitor their factories to make sure that there's no slave labor, the fact that there's no sex trafficking. So they do have that, but they don't show any actual physical, at least public records of all the initiatives and stuff. So it's mostly things that they say on their website. So a lot of critics do kind of point that out. And then in terms of Tom's workers earning a living wage, since most of the factories are located in developing countries, they have very kind of lax safety regulations that protect the workers. So a lot of times they do work more or in harsher conditions than, let's say, if they were in the United States. Tom's does continue to say that they treat all their workers ethically. As part of their company, they include a code of conduct, and they list it online. And one of the things that they go over is wages and benefits. It says, quote, employees are compensated with wages, overtime, and benefits that meet or exceed legally mandated minimum standards. Compensation shall be provided in a way that is prompt and easily understood. Conditional payments or disciplinary deductions are not tolerated. So this kind of goes over, yes, they do meet the legal standards, but that's of whatever country they're in. So in Ethiopia, the regulations are probably a lot more lax than if they were in any European country. So I think as far as sweatshop labor, it is to an extent, because they're still hiring a lot of people to do a lot of work for not as much money as they deserve. But in terms of those countries and how much the currency is worth in that specific country, they are getting at least paid a living more so wage.